You ever see a grown woman in a flag poncho nearly choke on her own coffee as federal agents march past her lawn chair at dawn? That was the morning our neighborhood Oak Ridge home of manicured yards and an HOA with the enthusiasm of a federal prosecutor got a wake-up call nobody was expecting. Least of all Karen across the street, self-declared sheriff of the cul-de-sac. She'd been waving at the men in black SUVs like she'd summoned the Avengers, not realizing the woman she'd accused of running a covert cell, my wife Liana, was the reason those agents were here. And when they walked right past Karen, saluted Liana and asked for her orders, I swear you could hear Karen's patriotic sock squish with spilled coffee halfway down the block. She had just called Homeland Security. On Homeland Security, and the fallout was about to be the kind of legend they warn about at HOA board meetings. It all started 6 weeks before that circus, when we moved in just two tired adults looking for peace after Liana's last high-stakes gig overseas. We picked Oak Ridge for its quiet, its rules, the promise of stability. Instead, we got Karen. She'd never met a boundary she didn't want to police. Convinced her binoculars and Facebook group were the last line of defense against untrimmed grass, misplaced trash cans, and apparently foreign operatives with military-grade equipment. Liana, with her tight-lipped smile and habit of checking the locks 3 times, didn't fit her script. Neither did her black SUV or the satellite dish in our yard, which was really just an encrypted uplink, something Karen spotted on day 2, sparking an HOA letter that demanded we remove unauthorized tech. We didn't. We just pointed it higher. That's when the real fun began. Karen's Facebook group, the Oak Ridge Safety Coalition, soon filled up with grainy photos of our backyard, wild speculation, and more than a few SpongeBob memes. She spun up theories about Liana being a foreign agent, maybe Russian, maybe Martian, maybe both, depending on how many energy drinks she'd had. The Whisper Network was officially live. One neighbor said we didn't wave right, another swore Liana spoke in code. Meanwhile, Liana, who'd survived being tailed by arms dealers in Morocco, just sipped tea and cleaned her service weapon on the back porch. You know what I mean, she'd say with a half smile. I've been bugged by arms dealers. HOA snoops don't exactly keep me up at night. But Karen wasn't playing. She ran an old plate from Liana's car, through some sketchy website, matched it to a former DHS agent, and connected dots only she could see. Within days, Homeland Security's tip line got a call, suspicious tech, foreign languages, tactical gear, midnight movements. The complaint was so detailed it landed right in Liana's own threat monitor at work. When she read it, her jaw clenched, then she laughed. They actually flagged me to my own department, she said. Karen just pulled the pin on an internal DHS probe. Protocols kicked in whenever a field agent gets flagged. They have to check it out, no matter how ridiculous. An inspection team would come check her creds, review our home, and ask a lot of uncomfortable questions. Karen was about to find out what happens when you poke the bear with the wrong stick. On D-Day, 3 black SUVs rolled in, agents silent and sharp in the sunrise. Neighbors peered through blinds, bathrobes, and slippers everywhere. Karen went live, whispering into her phone like an amateur Nancy Grace. They're here, I told everyone I knew it, she stage whispered, broadcasting to her 12 Facebook followers. The agents ignored her, walked straight up to our door, and saluted. Ma'am, per directive. Shall we proceed? Liana stepped aside, already holding her clearance. The lead agent, a granite-jawed guy named Delgado, didn't even pretend to be suspicious. He'd worked with Liana before, and the mutual respect was clear as day. They barely went through the motions, reviewing her creds, checking the satellite dish registered, of course making small talk about the absurdity of the situation. The only person sweating was Karen, now pacing outside and whispering to her phone about deep cover ops, like she was auditioning for a B movie. Outside, Karen tried to peer into the SUV, snapping photos, claiming her evidence would blow this thing wide open. An agent politely asked her to step away from the vehicle. She recoiled like she'd been struck by lightning and started threatening lawsuits. Meanwhile, inside, Liana sailed through the inspection, every item documented, every regulation followed, not a hair out of place. After an hour, Delgado shook his head with a tired grin. Cleanest review I've ever seen. Off the record, who'd you tick off? Liana just said, her name's Karen. She thinks I'm with the Russian consulate. He laughed. I just stood there, a glorified barbecue sidekick. The agents left with a respectful nod, no boxes, no drama, just the sound of Karen running after them, yelling about conspiracies and the truth. She immediately posted on Facebook that she'd scared off the feds with her bravery. Her followers dwindled to 3, including her cat's Instagram, but she kept spinning her web. She sent wild emails to the local paper, the mayor, even the governor. No one cared except, unfortunately, for her DHS, which now had a paper trail linking her to a malicious, targeted false report. Liana, calm as always, compiled every bit of Karen's digital dirt-doctored screenshots, paranoid rants, racist dog whistles, and filed a formal inquiry. That's when the real investigation began. Turns out Karen had a pattern of targeting suspicious neighbors, families of color, a gay couple, anyone who made her feel out of control. Within a week, a deputy served her with a restraining order, no more surveillance, no more citizens' investigations. She tried to protest, but the cop just cut her off. "Ma'am, this is your final warning. You're lucky we're being this polite." Karen vanished for a day, no Facebook posts, no patrols, just an uneasy hush over the block. But it didn't last. She reemerged, ranting from her porch about freedom and protecting her community. Nobody clapped. Liana watched on the ring cam, sipping tea, the picture of quiet satisfaction. Even so, we both knew Karen wasn't done. Her silence was just the eye of a much dumber storm. Then early one Friday, Liana's work monitor pinged a failed breach attempt on a DHS portal coming from a neighborhood IP, Karen's. She had tried to access a restricted government site, probably thinking she'd finally unmask the deep state. Liana filed the report. Now Karen was under digital surveillance. DHS analysts found militia forums, conspiracy blogs, even a neighborhood cleanse doc full of wild-eyed delusions. The kicker: a folder labeled expose, just photoshopped pics, fake emails, her wildest fever dreams packaged for local news. While the legal wheels turned, Liana started showing up at HOA meetings, laying out the facts without raising her voice. I ask only one thing: that this community treats rumor and fear with the same suspicion it wrongly gave to facts and service. Silence followed. You could hear people reevaluating every side-eye they'd ever given us. Some apologized, others just shuffled away. But the mood had changed. The spell Karen cast was broken. Still, Karen had to get in one last act. She mass emailed the block a 34-page PDF screenshots, backyard photos with red circles, pie charts, and wild claims that our garden gnome was a listening device. The HOA immediately suspended her. The sheriff updated the restraining order for digital harassment. Liana, with DHS's blessing, issued a memo confirming Karen's claims were groundless and that her conduct was now a federal legal matter. The most polite takedown you've ever seen. But Karen didn't quit. 2 nights later, in head-to-toe black, she tried sneaking into our side yard to mess with the uplink box, caught in glorious thermal cam like a raccoon with a PhD in paranoia. By sunrise, DHS had her electronics under warrant agents, calmly confiscating her devices as she hurled a lawn gnome and screamed about the Constitution. They found manifestos, plans for a suburban uprising, and a press release for when she was inevitably arrested by the deep state. This would have been hilarious if it weren't dangerous. A week later, the charges came: false reporting, cyber trespass, obstruction of federal operations, unlawful surveillance. Karen tried to sue us, then fired her lawyer and represented herself, citing YouTube videos about sovereign citizens. The judge, done with the circus, sentenced her to 6 months house arrest, 2 years probation, and a hefty fine, plus a mandatory psych eval and enough community service to repaint every curb in town. The story made local news. Then the internet, turning Karen into a meme, her patriotic meltdown immortalized as HOA Hitler with Wi-Fi. Even her old friends kept their distance. Liana testified calmly, laid out the facts, and said she feared not for herself, but for the time and trust lost to people like Karen, who turned systems meant to keep us safe into weapons of paranoia. We moved out a month later, found a patch of quiet far from HOAs and amateur spies, left a garden owl with a plaque: always watching on the front lawn for Karen. Just a little inside joke. A week after we left, we got an anonymous letter. I never meant to hurt anyone, folded around a picture of our house circled in red. Liana filed it just in case. But the truth is, folks like Karen don't disappear. They just lose their audience. And when the spotlight's gone, they either fade away or implode trying to get it back. So what do you think? Was Karen a defender, a danger, or just the inevitable product of a neighborhood that confuses suspicion with vigilance? Drop your thoughts below. Where's the line between justice and paranoia, and who really gets to draw it in the end?